It's a time where around the world authoritarianism is on the march. It's a time when small L liberal values of tolerance, equality, liberty, and opportunity aren't only challenged, they're openly mocked. It's a time when some leaders around the world are accumulating power only for themselves rather than to promote the common good. And we need to be clear-eyed about this, realists about this, realists about the dangers that all that combination brings. But we shouldn't and cannot be defeatist. The enemies of liberal democracy are cynics. They don't believe that progress is possible. And more importantly, they want their citizens, and actually our citizens, we see it with interference, they want our citizens to think that progress isn't possible. And they make the charge that to believe otherwise is foolish, it's elitist. They divide the people before they divide the spoils. And we would be doing their work for them if we become negative. We have challenges, we know that. But we always have challenges, we always will. But we also, in Canada and the United States, almost uniquely, we enjoy opportunities that our grandparents and parents could scarcely dream possible. We absolutely live in the two countries that the rest of the world wants to move to. And so this, despite all the challenges, should be our time, and we should make it our time. And I'm going to spend the last of my 6.5 allotted minutes to talk a bit about how we can turn the current upheavals in the global economy to our advantage. Of course, it starts in a situation like this with recognizing reality. And that reality is that we're living through a hinge moment of history that was sprung by a series of crises in finance, in health, in energy, and in geopolitics. And the thing is that each of those shocks, and they were major shocks, each one of them, didn't just hit the overall level of activity in the global economy, but they lowered the pace of growth, lowered it to a pace of growth that hasn't recovered. And the fact of that is that it is constraining now our governments, our companies, and our families, constraining their ability to cope with a much riskier world. And at the same time, in parallel, the global economy, as we've been hearing today, the global economy is being rewired across trade, across energy systems, across intelligence itself. Trade hasn't grown in aggregate across goods, services, capital since the global financial crisis in 2008. A shocking statistic, but it's true. And more fundamentally, what's happening is that trade is now being reordered by a series of protectionist measures, measures to de-risk commercial relationships, de-risk geopolitical relationships, to nurture domestic industries, and also soon, and you just heard a preview of that in the last panel, soon to avoid carbon leakage, because being low carbon is becoming a fundamental driver of national competitiveness. And all of these dynamics, and you live this in your day jobs, and we heard it in the panel before the most recent one, they're being reinforced by the early stages of an AI revolution. So we have a rapidly changing world, and it's a world in which we, as Canadians, it's true for America, but you have a little more influence, we as Canadians can no longer rely on the rules-based order for market access. And nor can we as Canadians, but yes, you as Americans, nor can we as Canadians afford the growing arms race in industrial policies. So speaking for Canadians, or to Canadians, we need to be smarter. We need to focus on key sectors. We need to create a coherent tax system. We need to help our people get the skills to master their machines, and we need to build our core competencies from clean energy to compute.